Coming in Hot is presented by Betano. The game starts now. Here are your hosts, Brent Wallace, Jason York, and Bobby Ryan.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to our trade deadline recap. I'm Brent Wallace alongside Jason York. Bobby Ryan, I think, still on the golf course, so we'll wait to see what his score was later. Yorkie, not a lot of action by the Senators or anywhere else for that matter, for the most part, when it comes to trade deadline day. But the Sens did make a move.
Yeah, they did. They brought in a depth center, and that's I think we talked about it yesterday, Wally. If they're going to do one thing, they would maybe add a little bit of depth down the middle. So they bring in Patrick Brown, 30-year-old centerman, and he has a little bit of playoff experience as well, which is a good thing. So he knows how to play when the heat's on. I think he's played just over 20 playoff games. I'm going to guess 22 back with Vegas. So, the book on Patrick Brown, really good penalty killer. He's an over 55% face-off guy for his career, and I believe he's a right shot. Don't quote me on that.
Yep.
Just going off memory. Yeah, going off memory here, Wally. So, and can block shots as well. So it's going to be a guy DJ Smith can trust to put out in defensive situations. And going down the stretch, when these games become more and more important here with more meat on the line here, a guy like Patrick Brown's going to be important. You wouldn't think so because it's not the sexy trade bringing in a Patrick Kane or what Minnesota just did, bringing in John Klingberg. But hey, this guy is going to help the Ottawa Senators. Trust me, he will help the Ottawa Senators down the stretch. Guys like this are invaluable.
That's where you say the Ottawa Senators have traded for Patrick and then let them fill out the Kane part, hopefully, instead of Brown.
Hey, another interesting thing on Patrick Brown, while you and I were talking about him, I played with his dad. Like, how old does that make me? I played with his dad in Detroit, Doug Brown, who was a really good underrated NHL player and won with Detroit. Real nice guy, little redheaded guy, little jolly redheaded guy, but good guy and a good player.
Listen. Well, I just calling him a jolly little guy. I like the move, and because it's a depth move, because they didn't take anybody off the roster, it's a 6th-round pick. He's going to cost them, I think, $116,000 in cap space for the rest of the year. Like, it really is a nothing move. It's simple to do. I like that he's a right shot. I like he kills penalties. I don't know. Hey, we don't know if he's going to play all the time. We don't know that they're going to take Mark Kastelic out or Dylan Gambrell. I like the way those guys have played, but it gives you a guy there because they didn't have a depth centerman. So the move is fine with me. There's not a lot to not like. I like his size, 56.9% in faceoffs. He checks, again, as we say, he checks a lot of boxes. I like the move. It's simple enough.
Wally.
Like, is it going to win them the Stanley Cup? No, but it's a good move for this team to push forward with.
It's coaches like to look down the bench because an NHL bench is chaotic. You wouldn't think so, but there's heat of the moment decisions. And when you can look down and say, I can trust this guy. I know he's going to go out there and do his job, be dependable. He's 30 years old. He's been around for a while. I know he doesn't have a lot of NHL games, but he's 30 years old. He's a mature player. He's a college kid. He's got, again, bloodlines. So another dad that played. It's I like the move, as non-sexy as it is. I really like this move for the Ottawa Senators.
And just to, I guess, to add to it, when there's like nothing to lose, and so you have to like the fact that it's just an added bonus of having someone on the roster, someone that's 30 years old, by the way, who's fought and clawed to make his way in the NHL. He was an undrafted player. He's had to sign. He was claimed off waivers by Philadelphia. Like he's had to fight and claw a little bit here. So in order for him to keep the job alive, because he's UFA at the end of the year, you will see 100% from Patrick Brown every night.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So,
for sure. I 100% agree. Hey, by the way, what is that strange voice in the background? Can you hear that too?
No.
There's
no.
Okay, maybe it was just me. Sounded like the devil or something.
There we go. But we will get to someone just asked about the Ranger game. We will get to the Ranger game in a sec. This show is always, by the way, brought to you by Betano, go to Betano.ca. But I saw one of their ads last night on the Sens broadcast. I
Me
was
too.
all excited.
Yeah.
Betano, the game starts now. We'll get to lock of the day a bit later as well. Betano with the best online betting and casino live games. You can go there, bet builder, all kinds of stuff. But they do have all the action when you go to Betano. Go to Betano.ca, download the app. All right, Yorkie. We will get you to read one of the two reads a bit later in the show. Okay. Do you have one you prefer? Do you want BEI or do you want Renfrew? You know what? I'm going to ask the fans. The people listening will get to decide which ad read you get. I love
doing Renfrew. I love doing Renfrew because
which is why I might mix it up.
Oh, whatever. I'm a professional. Come on, I've got experience in the industry. I'm not just some guy that played hockey that's coming on the podcast and doesn't know what he's doing. You're dealing with a professional here, Wally. Look, I got glasses on.
Yes,
I'm acting smart today.
A lot of people, when they see you, automatically go professional. So that's a bonus.
Professional. Exactly.
Alex, do we have the draft board available? I don't know. By the way, Alex has just done 4 straight hours of Daily Face-Off live show. So I'm going to cut him slack today. They had a really good live draft show. So he was doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's the draft picks for the next year. Not that big a deal. I just wanted to point it out if anybody's wondering where the draft picks are and what's going on. Ottawa will have 5 picks as of right now in the 2023 draft. None of them before the 4th round. But they didn't trade Cam Talbot. They didn't trade Austin Watson. Nobody has left the roster. That's all in all, that's very good. You've got now depth on your blue line with Erik Brannstrom. We'll get to Pierre Dorian's comments in just a second. But by the way, were you shocked to see Jakob Chychrun last night play on the left side, at least for now, or at least for that game?
I'm not going to say I predicted it, but because we didn't say it during the show yesterday, but I had a feeling that, number one, Erik Brannstrom would come out of the lineup because I look, and you heard the reasoning behind that Nick Holden's a guy that's very vocal, communicates, so you got to keep Chychrun on the left side, and Holden played the right. There are a lot of penalties in that game too, so I don't know. It's the one thing I will say, and I tweeted this the other day. Travis Hamonic has played very well lately. He's starting to elevate his game right now. And one of my biggest memories of Travis Hamonic is that series he played when he was with the Islanders. I don't know if you remember when they went head-to-head with Pittsburgh. And Hamonic battled Crosby that entire series. It was kind of Travis Hamonic's coming out party. He really established himself as a really hard to play against defensemen in NHL. And that was quite some time ago, but he still has those memories inside of him. He still has the I'm not going to call it muscle memory, but he knows what it takes to play this time of year. And if they do get into the playoffs. So I've been watching him lately, Wally. He's starting to early on in the year, a lot of turnovers, a lot of bad decisions. Now I'm not seeing them. And he's turning into that guy. And he's not going to be the guy he was, but he's elevated. I think he's been a lot better, and so has Holden. Holden's been better too.
Did he maybe? I'm only asking because you've played the game and understand it more than I have, over 700 games. Did he lose his way a little bit, perhaps either in Vancouver or Calgary? Is that possible?
It's tough for me to say. I don't know. I've never spoken with Travis Hamonic. I've only watched him. All I can say, because I really liked the player when he was younger. I talked about those days when he was with in Long Island, and that's probably part of the reason Ottawa brought him. That's probably the reason Ottawa brought him in, because Jack Capuano had the history with Travis Hamonic, and that's how the league works. You'll always take a gamble on a guy if you got inside information, because don't forget he was waived through the entire NHL. Nobody wanted him. Ottawa took a gamble. So yeah, to your point, maybe he did lose his way. And believe it or not, guys do lose their confidence. You get the puck, and instead of holding it on a little longer and making a good play, you get rid of it a little sooner. And you're playing sometimes to try and not screw up. Do I know that was the case with Trump? I don't know. He just didn't seem like the same player. Now I'm watching him, and he just seems like he's playing with a little more confidence, and things are working out for him better on the ice. And I'll say this too. You can say what you want about how he was. The one thing too that's been really big is the development of Jake Sanderson. Like, Hamonic's had something to do with that. Don't forget, he's been his partner most of the year. So obviously, I hate saying obviously, by the way, it's such a crutch word, crutch. He's had an effect on his maturation as a player, and you got to give him some credit for that as well.
I agree. I do like. You know what the thing about Travis Hamonic is? You don't necessarily say a lot about him during a game, which is exactly I think what you want from Travis Hamonic. Yes, he did make a great pass to Brady Tkachuk. There are moments.
Yeah,
I'm just saying he doesn't. Maybe in the defensive zone, you don't go, holy crap, he just completely lost his man.
I'll tell you one other thing too. When you're on a team that's very inexperienced down the middle, like Ottawa was to start this season, like they have been since Hamonic arrived, when you play a lot more often in your own zone than the offensive zone, defensemen are going to tend to look a lot worse than they actually are because you're always defending. And then when you're always defending, you start making more mistakes. I was in that position in Boston. I was on a really bad team. I was an older guy, and I was in my own zone the entire game. And you make mistakes, and you look like a really bad player. And that's what I looked like in my last year. And that happens all the time. It happens all the time. And well, now Ottawa's starting to mature a little bit. They're not playing as much in their own zone. So hey, the players don't look as bad anymore. But the point I made earlier, and you just made me think of something here, Wally. I know we got to get a few more sponsor reads in here. Early on in Mike, I played with young guys a lot. I played with Wade Redden when he was a rookie. I played with what's his name? Dan Hamous in Nashville when he was a rookie. When you play as an older guy with younger players, you're always talking to them. You're on the bench. You're talking. You're saying, "Hey, watch this guy. He does that. This guy does that." You'll be talking to them all the time on the ice. Because usually when they come into the league, they don't talk that much. So you have to help acclimate them with what it's like to play in the NHL. And the defenseman partner relationship is very unique because it's just the two of you. So when the two of you go on the ice, you got to act as a team. You're doing things together. You're talking. You're reversing the puck, D to Ds. And then you go out for dinner together. You're always together. So I would have to think, I'll tell you, I'm 99% sure that's been happening with Travis Hamonic all season long with Jake Sanderson. And so look how well Jake Sanderson's played. And I guarantee you, Hamonic has had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll get to Jake Chychrun in just a second. As for Erik Brannstrom, Pierre Dorion said today after the trade deadline, Erik Brannstrom is to fight for his ice time. And so that makes it seem, without question, that he will be the odd man out, and rightfully so. Listen, if you left this D group the way it was last night, are you okay with that? Which is Chychrun, Holden, Sanderson, Hamonic, and then Zub and Chabot at the top. Would you leave it the way it is, or would you move Chychrun over to the right, or somebody? Pierre Dorion even said, "Listen, we think that even Thomas Chabot can play the right." I'm not sure that that's what you want to start doing, but they're making it seem like anybody can start playing on the right at any moment now.
Yeah, I think it'll play itself out. Like, give it some time here. I had a feeling Brannstrom was going to be the guy coming out. I don't love Brannstrom in the third pairing. And I like him more when he's in a spot where he's. I've said this before. I don't know if that's ever going to be possible now in Ottawa, especially now with Jakob Chychrun coming in, because your top four is pretty well set. So can he be a number 5? I think so. His defensive game's gotten better, but he's a guy when he does get an opportunity on the power play, he's pretty good. Like, that's his bread and butter. So. That opportunity is never going to come here in Ottawa, but they'll address this at a later time. But to answer the first question, I think, and this is just my gut feeling, I think if you're in a series and you're starting, DJ is going to want 2 bigger, and he calls them rangy, longer defensemen. Yep. And that's a term you hear all the time. He's long, he's rangy, he covers a lot of ice. All things that, as well as Brannstrom plays, physically is not able to do. One thing the Senators are big on, and they practice it a lot, Wally, is boxing out. It's a lot harder when you're 5'9" to box somebody out versus Holden, who's, 6'4", and Hamonic, who's 6'2", and Chychrun, they're all big. That whole decor is big, with the exception of Brannstrom. So Just my opinion. I don't see him as an ideal bottom pairing defenseman. He's going to have to really fight to get his ice time.
And the thing about the playoffs is it's not about score, and this is going to sound weird maybe, but it's not about scoring goals. It's about keep them out of your own net at the end of the day, right? Because you're trying to win. And I know it's a little more scoring in these playoffs now, but you're trying to win 1-0 as opposed to giving up those goals. And that's where I think Brannstrom comes in. It's the defensive side of the game. And there's lots of people in the chat right now that want to see Erik Brannstrom in the lineup over Nick Holden. Would you do that decision? And I know you just said you wouldn't play him as a bottom three pair. Would you elevate Erik Brannstrom in the lineup?
Why would you change the lineup after you just beat the Rangers? Why would you change it? It worked out pretty well, right? I wouldn't change it. It's not a back-to-back situation. I think going down the stretch here, experience is going to be really important. Experience of being in these situations before. Like I said earlier, Holden's been in these situations. Hamonic's been in these situations, and then you got your top four. Yeah. So I think Brannstrom will get in. I think he's earned it. He's played well this year. I think it'll all depend. It'll depend on what happens. It's this little run here is going to take probably every guy on the Ottawa Senators. Every guy's at one time or another is going to get in the lineup, and they're going to factor in. So I think to start though, I think it probably remains status quo, just because of those guys are big, long, rangy guys. They're harder guys to play against, and it's just a fact.
By the way, people in the chat who are talking about interference through the bleeding through, I can't hear anything, so I apologize for whatever.
I heard it.
I
heard it.
What it is.
It's gone now. It was earlier. There was like an alien. I heard him in my ear. He was like satanic messages or something.
So, point being said, Erik Brannstrom is the guy that seems to be the odd man out at the moment. We'll see how that all plays out.
For now, Wally.
Lands. Right. Absolutely. Hey, listen.
For now,
lots of games left for people to get moved around.
Exactly. I wouldn't. I
can tell you, Yorkie.
What's that?
I can tell you that Jakob Chychrun, Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub, and Travis Hamonic are not coming out of the lineup anytime soon, if at all, ever.
I'm going to give you a thanks tips.
Okay. So it's going to be a long slog for Erik Brannstrom down the stretch here is what I'm trying to say.
It'll be fine. So, he'll get back in. It'll be fine. Anyways, we should be talking about Jakob Chychrun. He just came and played a hell of a game on no sleep.
So, yes. And then there was a major concern factor where Twitter almost exploded because it looked like he got hurt. Yeah. So, as you know, that one was a lot of interesting 30 seconds, if you will. So, you give me your assessment of Jakob Chychrun. All I'm going to tell you about Jakob Chychrun, from what I watched as just a fan sitting on my couch, is that you could feel a comfort factor with him being on the ice. Right away. There just seemed to be a settling down that there wasn't a scrambly part of that third pair. That's all I'm saying.
He can, for a big man, he can skate. And you saw the one play in particular when he had a foot race for the loose puck. I forget who that. I think it was Patrick Kane. It was Patrick Kane who was breaking for a loose puck, and you just saw Chychrun long, big strides, long stick, gets the puck, problem over. Little plays like that make you feel real good to watch when you're Jack Capuano and DJ Smith watching that. You're like, wow, I think the quote I heard DJ say, this guy's an NHL player. We got a real NHL player here. And it's not a backhanded smack at the rest of your decor. It's just, this guy is a top four defenseman. That's what he is. And you saw it last night. The guy played on, barely slept. I think he had a couple naps, took the red eye, brand new system, comes in and didn't play a perfect game, but he played very, very well. And this guy's got some offense in this game too, that wait till people see what he can do. His shot, the way he passes the puck. And he's, like I said, I'll use the term again, he's big, he's rangy, and he's long. Guys like that, they just, when it gets down to the nitty gritty here, and if the Senators do in fact qualify for the playoffs, In a best of 7 series, guys like that are invaluable. They're tough guys to play against because they take away time and space so quickly.
Did you watch his intermission interview? He's 24, but when you listen to him, and he's got a bit of a growly voice. If you like, he sounded like he was 28, 29, right? That just made me chuckle a bit. I'm like, Colin White. Colin White always looked 30.
Yeah, I knew Jacob when he was younger. I know Jeff very well. The agent, Andy Scott, was my son's agent, Jack, for a while. Great family. Andy Scott as well. Andy Scott too. You got to give him credit as well. When these deals are made, agents are always involved, and Andy is one of the best in the business. And I know you'd have to think he was involved as well, because they're playing both sides, right? They're trying to get their client moved, and they're trying to help the team, being the Ottawa Senators in this situation, get the deal done. So they're always involved. But no, Jacob is mature beyond his years, and it comes good family. His dad's a friend of our family's, grew up in Nepean, played minor hockey there. Just wonderful family. They ended up being raised, as everybody knows, in Florida. And then I think Jacob, back when he was younger, he was flying in to play games in Detroit. I forget whether it was Honey Baked or CompuWare, one of those teams. But he used to fly around everywhere to play in tournaments because they just didn't have the high-end hockey where he was in Florida. So it was a lot of commitment by the family to make sure he was playing high-level hockey. And he'd always come home for the summers and be up at his cottage at White Lake. So, wonderful family. And that's where it comes from. Whenever you hear a kid talk like that, it just shows you the way he's been brought up.
Yes, and that's exactly what you get from Brady Tkachuk. And if you've ever dealt with the Tkachuk family, same thing. Like, Chantel is the nicest person in the world. Keith Tkachuk, I have all the respect. Anyway, Brady Tkachuk is one of those people. Did you see
Nancy Chychrun's tweet? She sent a tweet out last night after the game. Great tweet, just thanking the city of Ottawa for being so welcoming, and just totally different. Like, you're in Arizona, where you're not even hearing about hockey. The fan base isn't really active in social media. It's you leave the rink, and you are a civilian. It's a nice place to hide. Yep. You're not hiding in Ottawa, and it was nice to see her come on there and just say a little thank you for treating your son so well.
What a feeling, though, it must be for a guy to be that wanted, to come to your hometown team, but to have that kind of explosion where everybody is all in and wants to see. Like, that's awesome. For all they are as athletes, you guys are all entertainers, and you want to entertain people and make them feel good. That's a great feeling to have. You imagine when he takes to the ice tomorrow against Columbus, I would think that there'd be a pretty big roar.
He will have a chill going down the spine of his neck. Guys are human. And I'll never forget when I played my first playoff game in the then Corel Center, when I walked out for the first playoff game, and it was the first time the city of Ottawa had an NHL playoff game since back in the 1920s, or when the Ottawa Senators first existed. Every single player was so amped up. It's just this time of year leading up to the playoffs, it's so different. Well, you've covered it. The building feels different. The energy's different. And you just, as a player, it really inspires you and makes you play better. It's like a seventh person out on the ice there with you. It's a very cool feeling. It's probably what I miss the most about playing, besides the guys in the room and being around the boys. It's playoff time. There's nothing like it. Yep.
Totally agree. All right. Before we get to last night's furthermore game of the New York Rangers and how Ottawa has now won 4 in a row, it's sponsor time. And Yorkie, in fact, I'm going to have you do both. So
I'm not getting paid enough to do both.
Yeah. You're going to fill in for Bobby. So you now have to, you guys were bragging so much of how great you are. I'm just going to sit back and have a sip.
So now I got to have all the pressure of picking the winner every single time. And by the way, I went first last 3 games in a row. That has not gone unnoticed. All right. Who are we starting with here? Renfrew or?
Whatever Alex comes up with.
All right. We'll go through my old favorite Renfrew Pro hockey tape. Wally, I'll say this. We got to do something new. I know the show was held together by Renfrew Tape, and why wouldn't it be? It's the best tape on the market. If you're interested, it's available at all major retailers, renfrewpro.com. You got to feel the game. Instagram at Renfrew Pro. Big thanks to our sponsors with the Green Core, Renfrew Pro Tape. Boom!
Don't forget, Friday is free. Well, Friday is free tape Friday. You want to go to Renfrew Pro? Yeah, every Friday they give away a free package. It's usually tape, sometimes it's gloves.
Maybe Friday. Maybe Friday.
Maybe Friday.
Every time I hear Friday,
words of Dominic
every time I
I
always think of him.
Okay, change Alex. BEI. Here we come. All right.
BEI, Bonisher Excavating Contractor. They're hiring right now, Wally. If you're looking for a summer job, get your resume in there. But you're going to have to work a full day. I'm going to tell you for laborers, mechanics, the concrete structure team, and quality control technicians. When you're planning your next project, consider BEI for your aggregate supply needs. BonisherExcavating.com. That's where you'll find them, Wally. And if you want to give them a call, you can go 613-432-1120.
Outstanding. All right, back to the game. So the Ottawa Senators have now won 4 in a row, which when New York scored those 2 quick goals and took the lead, I was like, uh-oh. Because it didn't, right? They gave up the shorty. It just all of a sudden looked like the tide was turning. But that's a team that played the night before. You can always tell they have the quicker jump. But you can tell Ottawa always gets better, it seems, later in games. And they continue to score goals like crazy. What did you make of that game?
Well, first of all, the night before stuff's bullshit. This time of year, there's no excuses. You got to be ready to play. But
no. My only point is the team that plays the night before always has the early jump because they just played and they're ready to roll. You see it all the time. People used to go, "Oh no, we're going to get them tired." No, you get them right away that want to play. We saw it against Detroit. They came out and scored right away. I think Chicago did too. Anyway.
So here's the thing about that, though. Yeah, you played the night before, but since then, you've gotten up, you've had breakfast, you've had lunch, and then you had a 2-hour nap. So it's not like you're all loose and stretched out and ready to play from the game before. It's just like when you really think about it. It's like, yeah, they played the night before, so they're going to be ready and loose. Well, no, they're not. They're going to be this. They're going to be the same as you.
Next year, I am going to try and track teams that played the night before, the jump they have starting the next game. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Back to the game.
Okay.
What did you make of that game?
I would say that my first takeaway is young team gets behind in the game, Madison Square Garden. I don't think they had their best stuff last night. I don't think they were. It wasn't a perfect hockey game for the Ottawa Senators, but that's a really encouraging sign when you come in that room after and you came back and want to come from behind victory in Madison Square Garden. That's a very tough building to play in. Ice isn't always the best. Very vocal crowd in there. So my takeaway is that is a huge win for the Ottawa Senators. And now they've got a ton of confidence going. This team in there has an inner belief. They've just picked up Chychrun. They had another piece today. I tell you, I was in this situation in 1997 when we went on an incredible run to make the playoffs for the very first time in Ottawa Senators history. You get to the rink and you're immediately energized. You're so excited to get to the rink, be with the guys.
Yep.
You know what the stats are, you know what you need to do, but you're not really thinking about, hey, we got to go whatever it is now, 14-5 or whatever. You're just thinking, man, what a great day to come to the rink. And I'm so fired up to play this hockey game. And you go out there and it's like, I call it the peak performance zone, Wally. Everything's just flowing and you play and you're not worried about winning or losing. You just want to play. And to me, that's how Ottawa's playing right now. They're playing like, yeah, we're just going to work hard and whatever happens is going to happen. We're prepared. We've executed and it's, they're in a zone right now. They're in a really nice zone, and they've got 2 games coming up that are very winnable. So this is going to get really interesting here in the next little while, because I think with Buffalo and Long Island in front of them, man, those are the 2 teams to me that they're going to have to catch.
And the back-to-back thing, like Ottawa has played extremely well. So I understand the back-to-back is it's not a huge argument. It just seems to be the team always has a bit of a jump around.
Wally, my other, sorry to interrupt you. My other takeaway from that game is I thought Talbot played really well again. So you got Talbot now since coming back. That's put together some nice quality starts. So now you have 2 goaltenders you're confident in. You got Sogard, who's played extremely well. Talbot's back on track. So as a player, when you know you have 2 very competent goaltenders, it makes you play that much better, because it's one less thing to worry about.
Okay, so I looked it up. Playoff teams. We want to always talk about, is Ottawa going to make the playoffs? So at the trade deadline last year, of the 16 teams that were in a playoff spot, how many do you think kept the playoff spot at the end of the year?
On which date? Sorry, I missed the first part of your on which date?
So on trade deadline day, so it was March 21st last year.
How many
teams that were in a playoff spot? Yeah.
I don't know. I'll say 2.
Only Vegas was the one to not make the playoffs. They fell out, and Dallas took that spot.
Yeah.
So
you're saying it's tough if you're not in it. It's very difficult, which it is. This is going to be very difficult. The point I made yesterday on the show was Ottawa's been so hot as of late. Their winning percentage in this little span, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's extremely high. Can you keep that level the entire rest of the season? Because they're going to have to, right? That's my only thing, because I know there's going to be games that they play where they play very well and deserve to win, but they're not going to win those games. That's what happens in hockey. So that would be my one concern with the Ottawa Senators is, can they keep this torrid pace up? Because they have to. That's going to be the difficult part of this.
But they're only 4 points back now. Now there's 4 teams tied with them at 4 points back, but they are only sitting 4 points back with 3 games in hand on the New York Islanders. They're right now playing at a 767 clip, and I get it. It's not sustainable, but even if they back off a bit and have a little bit of a downturn, I still think that there's a chance that we're sitting here with them 2 points out or whatever. And we know this schedule in March is going to be awful. I think when they go out west, they've got Toronto and Boston and Carolina and New Jersey mixed in there, and Tampa. Like, it's going to be a slugfest. But when you've got confidence, Yorkie, you know that you can play with anybody.
For sure you do, and I don't see Ottawa losing their confidence the rest of the way here. I don't see them having self-doubt creep in. I just see this as a young team that is putting on the horse blinders and going straight ahead. And I think they're gonna make a good run. Do I think they can get in? Sure, I think they can get in. But if you put me on the spot and say, are they gonna? What do you think's going to happen? If you really think about it, I think it's going to be. Is it doable? Yes, because I've done it before. I've been in this situation. Yes, and it took us right up until the last game. If old school Sens fans remember, back when we had to beat Dominik Hasek in the last game as a 1-0 game, it took every little ounce of that season to pull it out. Can it be done? Absolutely. Could these guys do it? Absolutely. Do the stats dictate that it could happen? That's where it gets a little bit tough, because you look at the teams they're competing with. Well, I got the standings right here, and I look at the last little games here. The Islanders, I know there's games in hand there, but I would have to think the Islanders, with the roster they have, I know they have a trouble scoring, are going to probably get hot here. I would think they are. Buffalo, I don't know about the Buffalo Sabres. The style of hockey they play, reading about them today, Wally, they're a puck possession team. They're a little more of a high-risk team. They like to make plays. They dump the puck in the least amount of any team in the NHL. I heard that stat today. So Are they going to be a team that translates down the stretch? I don't know. So we'll see. If I had to predict, I think it comes down to the Sens and the Islanders, and those games in hand are going to be crucial. You got to win them because games in hand are only as good as if you win them. So we'll see. It's very possible, a lot more possible than it was 2 weeks ago. But if you had to put me on the spot, I still think they might come up a point or two short. But hey, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. And I've done it before, so it can happen. So hopefully we're sitting here come playoff time and say, Yorkie was wrong. Sens made the playoffs. That's what I hope for.
I'm just saying, since the summer, and there is video evidence, I called for the Sens to make the playoffs. I will stick to it.
Did you? But the middle of the season, but like 2 weeks ago, you said there's no chance.
We're not talking about the middle of the season. We're not. Listen, there's no video evidence of that. There's just the summer stuff.
I got it.
I've deleted it.
I got it.
No, we're deleting it right now. Okay, I got. Do you want to do the Cookie Monster, or do you want to do Lock of the Day first, and then we'll get to the Cookie Monster? Let's do Lock of the Day because they're playing. Oh, just for the record, when I asked you yesterday, you and Bobby, about Derek Brassard scoring, and you basically told me to shove it, and I told you that he has scored more goals at MSG than any other place.
Yeah, I'm not good at predicting if guys are going to score because I was never a stats guy. All I can tell you is who's going to win or lose a game. That's my specialty. And I can tell you who's a good player and who I don't like as a player. As far as predicting like bogus who's going to score, like go get a lottery ticket, man. Like I said assist though. I said assist. I just go by the percentages. I'm like the Rain Man. I have all the analytical stuff going on in my head and I'm saying, okay, analytically speaking, what are the chances of Brassard scoring? Oh, they're not great, but he did, and it's great. Hey, I was going to say he was going to just to disagree with Bobby, but I changed my mind at the last second. What a night for Derek Brassard. Yeah. I couldn't be happier for the guy. Like, fantastic.
You don't ever hear a bad word about Derek Brassard, which is hard to do. And he's played on whatever it is, 10 teams, and still nobody says anything bad. Like, congrats to him. He's always been very good to me. I really like him as a person more than him as a hockey player any day.
100%. And just to go back on my prediction, and listen, I've said this all along. Even if Ottawa does not get into the playoffs, I'll say this again because I think it's very important for people that missed it the other day. This little stretch they're going to go on here is going to be invaluable for the future success of the Ottawa Senators. The lessons they're going to learn here about playing meaningful games down the stretch is going to be huge for this entire team, especially the young guys like Brady, like Stützle, like Batherson, like Shabbat, like Jakob Chychrun. Like, this can be great for Jakob Chychrun. Like, he's going to get a chance to play in a hockey market, and the list goes on. Sanderson, everybody. This is going to be, whether they make it or not, is going to be huge for the future success of this franchise.
Okay, so tomorrow they play Columbus, where they're going to try and win 5 games in a row for the first time since 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. Bobby Ryan was on the team when the last time they did this. But and Columbus comes to town, which, let's just be fair and say they're not the best team in the National Hockey League. So are we doing Lock of the Day, Alex? Do we have it? Columbus, by the way, is 4-1-1 in its last 6. Or no, sorry. Ottawa is 4-1-1 in its last 6 versus Columbus. They're looking to win 5 in a row for the first time since March 2017. They've got 4 4-game winning streaks this season. Just to put that in perspective, they've had a total of 4 4-game winning streaks in the last 6 seasons combined. And so they are a much better, obviously, franchise this time around. So, and they've won 4 straight. They've outscored their opponents 22-8 in their last 4 games, the Ottawa Senators. So, what are you doing here? And I think, well, to me, this one's pretty obvious. Well, first, you go ahead.
First off, Alex, can you like below where it says smartest man in hockey trademark? Can you just put Cy Young as well? Put Cy Young 20-7. That's got to be a misprint. Is that really true? Wally, is that true? Am I really 20?
Well, I just know you were wrong 7 times. So,
well,
be don't
forget, there's a Super Bowl pick in there, and I know nothing about football except I won my fantasy league like 10 years ago. Oh God, that's right. I love it. I love it when guys from other sports try and talk about other sports. It's like, stick to what you know. So I'm taking Ottawa. Of course I'm taking Ottawa. And by the way, this is the 4th time in a row I've taken Ottawa.
I would have gone.
They're not going to let me down.
Oh yeah. I'm going to take Ottawa too on this one. Okay. We're going to put Bobby, since he's not here today, we're going to say he took Columbus. Can we do that?
Just keep him. He would have. Bobby was taking Ottawa too. He sent me a note earlier.
Yeah, but he's not here.
You can't punish him. Well, you could.
Fine. Okay, Alex.
Oh boy.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right.
The easiest.
So,
hey, listen though, Wally. These games are dangerous. These games are dangerous because Columbus is the team that Ottawa's been for the last. When have they been in this little downturn for the last 5 years? Remember how good Ottawa was down the stretch when there's nothing on the line? When there's nothing on the line, a team like Columbus is very dangerous because they're going to try shit. They're going to play loosey-goosey. Maybe the goaltender stops 45 shots, has himself a night. Very dangerous teams like Columbus because pressure's off. You know you're missing the playoffs.
Okay, but here's my thing with this. And there was somebody I saw complaining about Chicago saying you could have pulled the goalie and tried to get the tying goal, but instead you deliberately tried not to win the game. Are we seeing teams like Columbus and Chicago and Arizona is trying to trade everybody and have a draft pick? Are we trying to see deliberate tanking outside of the players that are on the ice? And Yorkie, I don't know. I'm going to say yes.
Coaches aren't trying to deliberately. The GM's not pulling the goalie. Like when the coach has the earpiece on, it's not the GM on the other thing saying, "Hey, do not pull that goalie. We need the draft pick." The coach's record, it's like the internet. It's always going to be there. So every single time he loses, that goes on that coach's all-time record of wins and losses. And then that coach is judged by his record. He doesn't want to lose. I don't care what anybody says. There's no coach that's going into a game in the National Hockey League and is trying to lose a game. I can guarantee you that. Unless it's a coach GM. I don't see it, man. I don't see it.
But what if your job is on the line? Either you go ahead and win these games, but I'm not guarantee you're coming back next year.
Well, let's go. So we're talking like, give me a situation. So Chicago, you mentioned Chicago. Who's the head coach in Chicago right now?
You know what we can do? Luke Richardson.
I don't think knowing Luke, there is no way. What a bad question, by the way. Who's the head coach in Chicago? Of course, it's.
Well, I thought you were just trying to set me up.
Sorry, Luke. Sorry, we just saw him the other day. There's no way. Luke is one of the most competitive, hardworking guys. There's
I understand,
no way
Yorkie.
He's trying to lose a game.
But if your directive is we're not here to win hockey games. Listen, look at Buffalo and what Tim Murray was very vocal about it when trying to get Austin Matthews. I just listen, this is a generational player.
I'll give you an example. When I was in Anaheim back in the mid 90s, we went into games. Ron Wilson was the coach, and he had a speech to us for a game. He's like, "Guys, we're playing the Rangers tonight. On paper, we're not expected to win this game, so go out and work hard, and we'll see what happens after the game." And then he showed us a clip, and I'm not lying here. This was our pregame video of the Mighty Ducks movie doing the flying V. We watched when they do the flying V, and that's what we watched before the game. That was our pump-up video, and we're all scratching our heads. We went out there, but at no point during that game did we feel like we were trying to lose the game or throw the game in order for us to finish worse. But don't forget, back then there was no draft lottery. So if you finished last, you were guaranteed. You were guaranteed to get the first overall pick. And like that team was not very good, but we didn't try and lose on purpose. We just that happened on its own because we weren't very good. So that kind of took. That's what GMs do. They just make it so the team's not very good, and then
that's what Chicago has done. Yeah,
yeah. They're
By
stacked.
the way,
they've stacked the deck.
Are you at all
against
surprised
themselves.
at we call it the arms race, but are you surprised at all the moves that the top 6 in the East have done to try and remain competitive? Like they loaded.
Not
it just
at
seems
all.
to me they loaded up.
Yeah. I think it was a great little piece of business by all those teams. They all found ways to have some teams take some money, and I love what Boston did. I love the moves Boston did. Orlov is a really good defenseman. That was a really good move. And then bringing in Bertuzzi.
Yep.
And now mysteriously Taylor Hall is on long term. Kind of similar to Nikita Kucherov, isn't it? When he was with Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Nick Foligno's out too.
Yeah. Hey, and how about the season Nick was having? Really was really playing solid in that role as a third, fourth line guy. So Toronto too. I know people don't want to hear it, but the Ryan O'Reilly trade, that was a good move that they pulled off. I said this on Twitter. I don't like the Rangers moves. I don't. Not that I don't think Patrick
it reminds
Kane's
me
a great
of
player.
This reminds me of when they had all the money before the salary cap and they just kept buying everybody and they still couldn't win, right? They just were like, oh, we're just going to buy all the best players and make it work. And Glenn Sather couldn't make it work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's really tough because you got to have roles for everybody. Everybody has to have a role, and it's just Patrick Kane, Hall of Fame player generation. Like he's a fantastic player, but so too is Panarin. So too is Zibanejad. There's not enough for me. It's just they should have got. I would have went after a little more sandpaper. Maybe it wasn't available to complement those guys, but those particular moves, I'm like, I don't know how much that's going to help New York win their ultimate goal this year. That's all I'm saying. The players are all great, but sometimes too many of a good thing, right? Yeah, the talent undeniable, but we'll see. Yep. I could be wrong. But right now I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Okay. So we've had, because you and Bobby have both brought up this term called Cookie Monster in the past. And I want you to, I guess, can you explain to the people who have asked what a Cookie Monster is when it comes to an NHL term? Let's see. Does Alex have the fancy graphic? Oh. Hey, arts and crafts today.
Oh, C is for cookie. It's good enough for me. Remember that one? Like the old Sesame Street songs are coming back. Cookies. Well, first of all, cookies, some guys call them goals, but for me, cookies are points. Cookies are points. And Cookie Monsters, NHL players, are guys who love getting points. Everyone loves getting points. Hey, there's games when I finished, I'm like, hey, I got a couple assists. I'm happy. I got a goal. But Cookie Monsters in general, all the guys on the team know how much these guys love their points. So people would say, well, is Connor McDavid a Cookie Monster? No, he's not a Cookie Monster. He's just one of those players that's going to get 150 points. Cookie Monsters are more guys where maybe if you lose the game and the guys get their points, they're not that they're happy, but they're not as upset that you lost the game because they got their cookies. So Cookie Monsters are guys where, like the Cookie Monster, they value their cookies to the highest regard. They love their cookies. They love getting their points, and everybody on the team knows how much they love getting their points.
All right. That is Jason York's Cookie Monster story. Someone else just asked, and we totally forgot. Patrick Murphy. And so wait, two quick things.
What's that?
Austin Watson hit Tyler Mott yesterday in the game. He charged at him, obviously. Do we think there was anything to that, or is that just I'm just trying to play the game
hockey
here?
Austin Watson's playing how he always plays it hard, plays the game, as I like to call it, from the tips, plays from the back tees, doesn't cheat the game. Unfortunate. And the nice thing is he didn't get suspended. He got reviewed, and it says he just followed through and ended up getting the head. It's not going to be the first time, Wally, as you know. You covered this game long enough. Won't be the last time. Stuff like that's always going to happen. Just tough luck to a guy that plays the game hard.
Okay, moving on to Patrick Murphy's question, and we had talked about this the other day. Trade deadline stories. Can you give me your trade deadline stories? I know we've talked about this off camera.
So my most memorable was it happened to me. I was playing in Detroit, and it was a grind. It took me like 4 years to finally make Detroit. When I finally make Detroit, it was in 1994. We ended up getting locked out. So we had to miss the whole season up until January. Then we come back, and Detroit's predicted to win the Stanley Cup that year. So that's the year I was partnered with Paul Coffey, at least at training camp. But now we're back, and Detroit's the odds-on favorite to win the Cup. Its team is stacked. There's Yzerman, there's Fedorov, Kozlov, Coffey, Lidstrom. That's unbelievable team. So trade deadline is just around the corner, and Detroit was one of the only teams to have their own jet back then. It was called Redbird 1. So we're going out on the West Coast to go on a trip, and Redbird 1 takes off, and we're all up there playing cards. All of a sudden, the plane mysteriously takes a pit stop on the way out to San Jose, and we're like, oh, what's going on here? And then people start wondering, and this was before phones and all that stuff, so nobody knows. So the plane goes down. We land in New Jersey, and lo and behold, onto the plane comes Fetisov. And we're all looking, we're like, we just traded for Fetisov while we're in the air. So I don't know exactly how they did it in the air, but we did it, and we picked him up. So Fetisov comes on the plane, and the plane continues on to San Jose. But here's the thing. We know when the plane lands, there's too many guys, and someone's getting traded. So rest of the plane ride, the card game was a little more stressful for some of us. So when the plane lands, we go right to the rink, and we're going to have a practice. Scotty Bowman was the coach and the GM. Sure enough, Scotty Bowman, trainer, comes to see us. Hey, Yorkie, and of course, Mike Sillinger, the man who's been traded the most. Mike Sillinger, Silly Yorkie, Scotty wants to see you. So Silly looks at me. He's like, hey, Yorkie, I think we've been traded. So we walk in, and I had never been traded before. So, yeah, sure enough, we got Fetisov in the air, and Sillinger and I were traded once the plane landed. And basically, just that's it. You get on the phone. The Ducks called us. It was Jack Ferreira, the GM. We got another plane, and then as quick as that, we're flying off to Anaheim. Played the next night in Anaheim, and that's how quickly it happens. But I've never seen it where you've seen a guy traded in the air like that. I've seen guys get traded after a game, seen guys get traded, like called off during practice, but that's a first during a flight, actually in the air, and a guy comes on the plane, two guys go off, and one of them was me.
Yeah, that's interesting. There is somebody that I know of when I covered that got traded, I want to say on the plane or just as he stepped off the plane, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
What's the other? I told you another one too that was kind of. What was the other one I told you? That was
and now I can't think of it.
Yeah, that was probably the most memorable for me, and it was the first time getting traded in the NHL, so you never forget that. It's just such a weird feeling. It's like, these guys don't want me anymore. Well, I guess they're getting Fetisov, and so it's just one of those things. And then the other part of that trade was actually they got Fetisov, and then Stu Grimson went the other way as well. Yeah, Grimson, we weren't exactly traded for Fetisov. Grimson went the other way with Mark Ferner.
You're right.
So
it's because it was April 4th, 1995. Traded with Mike Sillinger to Anaheim for Mark Ferner, Stu Grimson, and a 6th round 96 pick. Yeah. But
you knew we were leaving anyhow. It was weird seeing Fetisov, big Russian guy, comes on the plane. That was after that too. Don't forget the Red Wings had that Russian five with it was Fedorov, Konstantinov, Fedotov, Konstantinov, Fedorov, Kozlov, and who was the other Russian on the other wing there? I'm missing one of them. Larionov eventually came over too, and they had the Russian five. Yeah. Yeah. What a team those
What a
Detroit
group.
teams were. Yeah. Unbelievable.
All right. I think those are out of question. Someone, I'm going to say Maddie's the name, but it's M4DDIE. What happens when you hate your team? Like, what do you do? Do you just have to deal with it?
What? There's always, I will say this, like most rooms, it's pretty, everybody pretty well gets along because you have to. You've grown up in the team environment. You've always been on teams, so you find a way to make it work. There's usually one guy though that doesn't like another guy. It's the same as any other place at work. I'm sure not everybody likes each other at work, and there's always guys that you think are playing in front of you that shouldn't be, or vice versa. So there's always that going on. It's but I've never really been on a team where a guy's actually hated somebody. It's just, unless they've been very good at disguising it and hiding it. But it's just, you always find a way to make it work.
I guess it's just the teams that hate or say they don't like their team might be just the guys who ask for trades that you find out about because,
well,
there's various reasons. Like I don't think Danny Heatley hated playing on the Ottawa Senators, but I do think he disliked some things with the Ottawa organization, if you will. Like
I couldn't stand my D. I didn't like my D coach in Anaheim one year, and basically I did the best thing. You have it out with him in private, and you talk about things. That's the best way to do it. Otherwise, it'll just drive you nuts the entire year. But I was lucky. I had really good coaches throughout my whole career. Like good people and good coaches. It's very fortunate.
It makes me think like Evander Kane would be a guy where in the Winnipeg story of them throwing his stuff out of the bus, that's probably not a place he wanted to play.
Yeah, but there's, I didn't know any of the guys at the time there, but judging from what everybody was saying, it wasn't working there, and there was some dislike through with some other teammates. I've never been on a team where something like that has happened. Generally, you'll have a guy that doesn't like the coach. But hey, this is what a hockey team is. I always say this. I think I might have said this on the show before. On any team, you got 1/3 that's not happy. Usually those guys aren't playing, they're sitting out, and they're very disgruntled. You have the top third that's very happy. They play all the time, they're on the power play, the team's doing well, and they're a big part of it. Then you have the middle group. They're like Switzerland. Those guys are they're not unhappy and they're not happy. They're just kind of, hey, I'm in NHL. Things are good. And what good coaches do, they make sure Switzerland doesn't go to the dark side, because as soon as that happens, that's when a coach eventually gets fired, because you get 2/3 of the team not liking you, then you're in trouble.
Yes, fair enough. All right. We will be back Monday, unless you got more to talk about. People want to know about Detroit and what happened there, or a team that was fighting for roughly a playoff spot, arguably, until they ran into Brady Tkachuk. And then they seemed to dismantle that group.
That's what, Wally, that's what happened, isn't it? You watch those games.
Well,
I said this before. I said, we talked about this on the show. Those two games, the worst thing that could have happened for the Senators was win one, lose one. The best thing happened. To me, it really paved out their direction. They won both games, and it's now put them in a situation where they're that much closer to the playoffs. And also, too, the fact that you're able to make that trade for Chychrun, which helps you today and helps tomorrow, because you're not trading for Matthias Ekholm. You're not trading for John Klingberg. You're not trading for if Ryan McDonough is available. You got the player that's 24, turning 25 this year. That's the perfect age for your group. The only thing is he doesn't shoot right, but hey, nothing's perfect. You got you got what you wanted. The only reason, I think you brought this for, people are like, you guys said like a month ago that the Senators shouldn't get Jakob Chychrun. Yeah, a month ago, the price for Jakob Chychrun was Shane Pinto, 2 draft picks, being in the first round. Of course you're not going to do that trade. That's why we said that a month or two ago. I'm not making that trade for sure. I'm not trading those guys. But then the best thing happened. The ask softened. Still a good price, but a price that is now fair and actually is I probably would have given up more. I would have given up more draft picks for Chychrun if push came to shove. I would have given up more. But the best thing about this trade, you didn't have to give up a high-end prospect.
Yes. So
right?
I think Bill Armstrong completely blew this from the get-go. The asking price was so outrageous that he didn't understand the market. And then all of a sudden, I think 6 or 7 D got traded, and then he's left holding like, what do I do now? And now you've waited so long, you don't have any choice. You should have, when you're buying a house, they always say that take the first offer because it's usually the best one you're going to get.
Yes.
He probably could have done better earlier on had he just made the deal and not said, oh, I'm holding out for this ransom for Jakob Chychrun. And now they've got 33 picks or something to that number in the next 3 years. That means they're drafting a whole entire team. There's no chance that maybe 5 of these guys play in the National Hockey League. What are you going to do with all these draft picks? Oh, you're going to trade them for quality players? Not very likely.
Trade them for money.
Get there, yeah, like
because they're not going to be making any money with. They every team, it was like they were playing a game of Texas Hold'em. We'll call your bluff. We'll call your bluff. And then all of a sudden, hey, Edmonton moved on. We'll do Ekholm. LA moved on. Teams moved on. And Ottawa was like the only team left standing. And there's like, yeah, here's what we'll give you. And it turned out great. This turned out great for the Ottawa Senators. It couldn't have turned out any better. You got him to come down on the ask. You weren't going to pay those ridiculous prices a month ago, but it's like the seas just parted perfectly. Would they even have made this trade? Well, they probably would, because of the age, and like we explained. But everything happened perfectly. Everybody else out of the mix. Ottawa, last team standing. Ottawa has the ability to take on the money, and then they do the deal. So it was, for me, it's a home run for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't understand. Basically, they got Jakob Chychrun for a first and 2 seconds, unless Ottawa makes the Eastern Conference final, and I'm not sure that's going to happen.
But if it does, it's great for the organization. That
trade is a strong trade. But that's on Bill Armstrong. Again, it's just
100%.
Just
100%.
So, all right, Columbus tomorrow. I need to go get an anniversary gift, so I will talk to you.
Where are you going for dinner tonight? You guys got a date tonight?
Yes, but I don't know where.
Date?
So
you guys pushing the single beds together tonight?
No. Still separate rooms. Just like the king and queen.
That's what Lloydie. The Lloyds have the separate beds, eh? They have their separate beds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It keeps it better. In case one of you snores or something, I sleep with the TV on. Yeah, it's good.
Oh God.
All right, Yorkie. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate it.
See you, everybody.
Coming in Hot is brought to you by Betano.ca. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to never miss an episode.